Good morning, welcome along. It's Wednesday. It's the 27th of September 2023. This is your 8 a.m. movement snack at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Welcome. Come on board. I know you're here. Let me show you. We're sharing a bit of time together. Let's pop a little bit of extra light on, shall we? See if that lightens things a bit. There we go. Overcast morning. It's supposed to be a horrible day today, but it's not looking too bad out there at the moment. Time will tell, I guess. Yeah, a little bit overcast at the moment, but we'll see what happens. What's the word I'm looking for? What conspires over the day, should we say? Let's go for that. All right. Listen, this is our morning movement snacks. It's all about mobilisation, but it's about circulation boosting as well. So we boost the circulation first, do a bit of circulation boosting, and then we focus into our zones as far as our mobilisation is concerned. You know, we've got three lots of areas. So we've got our head and shoulders, we've got our trunk area, and we've got our ankle, feet and toes. It's focusing on those because they're parts of the body that we use continually through the day. And a lot of time, they're parts of the body we use without even really thinking about it. You know, we think about reaching to pick something up with our hands as a movement, but how many times do we think about actually just using those shoulders because we're moving the arm away from the body? How many times we turn our head in the day and not even realise we're doing it? You know, we're continually looking around at what's happening around us. And that might involve the trunk as well for some twisting movements, some reaching, some bending movements. But even just standing or sitting, trunk is involved. And walking, ankles involved in there. And ankles play such an important part in our mobility and our stability as well. So really important that we try and focus in on those areas. It's all about making everyday life easier. It's about getting extra minutes of movement into our day as well. Right, let's have a look where we are. I can see we've got George in. I'm getting no comments coming up, folks. I can see that George has popped up saying he's watching. And I can see we've got Sheila in as well. I can't quite make out some of the other icons that are coming up, folks, so I do apologise. But I've got one of those days where no comments are coming on up. So I will catch up with you afterwards to say hello. We're at 8 o'clock, so let's get ourselves going with the whoosh whoosh ping, shall we? Oh! Good morning, everybody. Welcome along. You're with myself, Dave Montgomery from Later Life Training. It is Wednesday. It's the 27th of September 2023. Can you believe it? 27th of September already. And here we are for our morning movement snack. As I was just saying, it's all about mobilisation. But before we do that, we need to look at our circulation boosting. But before we do that, we need to look at posture. And before we do that, we need to decide whether we're going to do it standing or seated. Standing, some fixed external support, strong sturdy chair. Nothing on the floor that can cause us any issues. On the carpet, I could have socks, I could have bare feet. But as you know by now, rushing out after straight away, so I've got my shoes on. But if you are on a hard floor, a wooden floor, a concrete floor, a tiled floor, anything like that, then you do need sensible, comfortable footwear. Let's have a look at our posture, shall we? It's exactly the same in seated as in standing. In seated, we just bring ourselves away, hip walking into this front third of the chair. So from the back of the chair, lifting, and then walking with those hips to bring ourselves into that front third. Now, once we're in the front third and we've lined everything up, yeah, that's where we go to next. So heels in line with knees, knees in line with hips. Seated, your knees are bent. Standing, soften them a little bit. Grow a little bit taller by getting a couple of inches by lifting those ribs away from those hips in the mid region. And then bring your shoulders up, back and press them down, lengthening through the neck. And we're ready to start with our circulation boosting. We start with a heel raise. So lifting those heels off the floor, up onto the balls of the feet. Speed-wise, we don't want to go too fast, but the speed is whatever you want it to be, okay? But this, as you know by now, is not about making things faster. It's about making things bigger. So a speed that feels comfortable for you is fine. And then we just make that movement bigger by bringing the feet off the floor, creating that marching motion. Remembering all the time that in seated, if we feel any fatigue into the hip flexors, you've always got that option to come back into those heel raises. Now let's pop an arm in as well. Add a bit of extra into the mixture, shall we? It's like making a Christmas cake. Oh, I said the word. It's like making a cake. We're adding the bits in as we go along, yeah? Now, if we're in standing and using support, the other hand is firmly on that support, whether it be in front or to the side. If we're not using support, then we can just change hands as we feel free. if we are using support, then it's really important. The support comes in use. So hand comes down before the other hand comes off. Now, if your support is to the side, it's going to be slightly different because you're going to want to keep going a little bit longer on that one side and then lose the arm, make the march a little bit smaller, take as many steps as you need to turn into support where you put both hands on, and then as you carry on turning, you bring the other hand off and away you go on that other side. Finally, in seated and in standing, if we're not using support, we've got the option for both arms, both legs to get involved, so we're really working through that body. Taking nice breaths, keeping everything mobile and moving. I say remembering seated that if you want to bring that back down into a heel raise, you can. Now, a couple of minutes is what we're looking at. 3 at the absolute most. What we're doing is we're getting the blood pumping around the body, but what we're also doing is allowing those arteries to dilate a little bit. So we're allowing the capillaries to dilate to allow that blood flow. We want the blood to flow around the body a bit more so that we get the oxygen to the muscles. We warm those muscles, we energise those muscles, and we warm and loosen the joints, ready for us to focus into some mobilisation. Now, as we get to that 2-minute mark, let's bring this down. So let's take the arms out firstly, make the march a little bit smaller again, bring it back into that heel raise, and then we can come to a pause. Now, we're ready here to move into our first set of mobilisation. But first of all, let's start with this base of support, always with our base. Heels in line with knees, knees in line with hips, lifting tall. It's same in seated as in standing. Keeping the neck lengthened, bring the shoulders up towards the ears, and then press them back down past where they started. Now if I come sideways, look, you can see it's a straight up and a straight down motion. We're not bringing the shoulders forwards or backwards. And we're looking at 4, 5 possibly of these. Once you've done them, have a pause, and then let's rotate. So come forward, up, back past your ears, shoulder blades together, and press down. Slow and controlled, so we can make sure we get the best range of motion and we get every part of the body involved. Going in this backward motion so we end up in a good postural position. Once you've done your 4 or 5, have a pause, and it's time to turn the head. Now, support if you need it. Eye line stays level, really important here. Chin stays level, and we return towards the side. We come back and pause in the centre, and then we turn the other way. This little pause in the centre is really important to enable us to have a little break, have a little rest, have a breather if we need it, but to make sure that we're keeping the eye line level. And 4 or 5 each way is what you're looking at, remembering, as I said right at the very beginning, how many times do we move and turn our head in the day? This is allowing us to really mobilise into there. Once you've done your 4 or 5 each way, have a pause, and we're heading into the back of the neck. Now, this is about stacking the head back onto the top of the spine. So, if I come down here, eye line's going to stay level. I'm going to use the fingers as a guide to enable that to happen. As we draw back and then come forward. Now, we can either keep the fingers on the chin as that guide, or we can leave the fingers where they are as a guide to where we started and where we're going to stop. But you can see, because my eye line is staying level, I'm giving myself another chin. If I haven't got enough already, eh? 4 or 5 of those is what we're looking at. Once you've done your 4 or 5, have a pause. We're back into a reboost of our circulation. Bottom half of the body only, so from the hips down with a march. 30 seconds just to reboost us before we head from this top trio down into the trunk trio. And this is about bending, reaching, twisting, turning, all those sorts of things, yeah? So 30 seconds of flowing, controlled, regular movement, and then we're going to reset our base and focus into these trunk areas. Okay, so as we come to that 30 seconds, let's bring it to a pause and reset the base of support to a wider base, in line with our shoulders. Now, feet are going to stay firmly on the floor in standing. They're going to do it in seated as well, but also in seated, you're going to keep that bottom firmly on the chair. And the movement is a reach down to the side, pause in the centre, and then reach the other way. Okay? If you're using support in front, change every time. If your support's to the side, then bring it to the side where the support is, pause there, and then take it back that way. You do your 4 or 5 on that side before you change to the other. In seated, as I say, it's about the bottom staying firmly on the chair, but the movement's exactly the same. We don't follow our leg because they're in front, but we come down to the side, we pause there, and then we take it down again on the other side, lengthening through the side of the body as we come down and pause and then raise back up. 4 or 5 each side, and once you've done those, let's take it into this trunk rotation. Now let's have a look at this in seated firstly. It's all about the hips staying still. As we rotate to the side, come back into the centre, and then take it the other way. Now, in seated, I can feel through the way that my bottom is on that chair, excuse me, as to whether I've got movement in my hips. In standing, make sure your knees stay softened, and again, you're focusing onto that movement there. Same as before, if your sport's to the side, to the support and back, 4 or 5 on that side. If your sport's in front, change every time, or pop your bottom against it, pop your hips against that support. That's now going to tell you and give you that feedback we're getting from that chair. If we've got movement in the hips, we're going to feel the bottom or the hips lifting away. Soften into it, still, and rotate. Now, as I've said before, it might mean that to start off with, this movement's quite small, but the more we do it over time, we should find we can take it a little bit further and still focus on those hips staying still. Once you've done your 4 or 5 each way, pause, and let's take it into the lower back. It's those big back extenders now. Now here it's about the pelvis staying still. So the knees are softened again. The movement, keeping the eye line level, is to lift the chest and then extend, focusing on those pelvises staying still. So we're not leaning, okay? So again, you might want to use your support to tell you. In seated, we can feel through the bottom and the top part of our thighs as to whether we've got movement into the pelvis. By isolating that pelvis, we're making sure that we're extending through the back here, definitely through the lower back. We're not leaning. If we're leaning, all we're doing is we're putting pressure on that back and we're working here really more than anything, okay? So it's this lengthen, keeping the eye line level to give yourself the double chin again as you draw the shoulders back to extend through that lower back, releasing and releasing. 4 or 5 of these, lifting and extending. And once you've done your 4 or 5, have a pause. Now, if you have any lower back pain, you're really going to feel the benefit of that one. Once you've done those 4, as I say, have a pause, and let's go back into a reboost of the circulation. Upper body this time. Now here, if you're in seated and standing is not where you're looking to go, there's an opportunity now to have a look at one of those head and shoulder movements, or have a look at that one of those trunk movements again, and go over them one more time. Otherwise, we're heading down to our final trio of movements. Well, our trio movement, which is our ankle, feet and toes. So as we get to this 30-second mark, bring it back down again and then into a pause, and let's have a look. Support-wise, use it even if you don't feel you need to. Focus into getting the best possible movement, not into balancing, all right? Eye line's going to go to the front, but you might need to look to start off with as you place the toe on the floor and then lift and place the heel in exactly the same place. Now when your heel's down, you're splaying your toes. As you come on over, you're scrunching them and then you're pointing them down towards the floor. 4 or 5 on one side and then change to the other. Seated. We can do that same movement, just need to adjust your legs a little bit so you've got room to do it. We don't want to seesaw it, so we want to be able to get the foot, the toe and the heel in exactly the same place. When I say seesawing, we're not looking to do this motion, we're trying to get that real lift, place, lift and place. Same with your toes, splay and scrunch. Or take a movement backwards into the chair. Extend the leg away in front, and even though I'm in the back of the chair, towards the back of the chair, I'm not leaning on it, I'm still staying tall. Foot's flat on the floor, lift it off about 1 inch or 2 inches, point the toes away, and that's where you can scrunch them. Bring the toes in towards the shin, and we can splay them, yeah? So we've got this scrunch and this splay. Now, this isn't a strength movement, so you might want to put your foot down between every couple, or even every one, doesn't matter. Reset it and away you go again. And likewise, don't allow that leg to drift up. Once you've done your 4 or 5, change to the other side. The reason we want to not let the leg drift up, if we do, we're engaging this big muscle here, and we're working on strength then, we're not working on this mobilisation. So really keep the foot down towards the floor and have that rest if you need to. To finish it off, you can bring yourself back into the front of the chair. We can do a step through, so heel strike, rolling through onto the foot being flat as you lift up onto the ball of the foot at the back. And in standing, you've got that stepping through motion, which is that in seated really, it's emulating that. And this is our walking motion. We take it a step further, obviously, so if I lose this, step forward, heel down, rolling through, up onto the ball of the foot and the toes at the back, and then we step through that other one, heel, back up. So that's your heel-toe motion. As I say, your ankles play such an important part in your stability. Now, that is your morning movement stack for today. I'll be back with you tomorrow, but it'll be an early one again. I'll see you around about 6:30, 6:45. I'll let you know for sure. I'll pop you posted. So I'll probably see a lot of you on catch up tomorrow, which is fine. That's great. That's what this is all about, yeah? Have a great day. Stay active, stay moving, keep crowbarring additional movements in as well. Catch up with Kelsey and Bex during the day, and I'll see you real soon. Take care, everybody. Toodles.